Yeah, Muslim. No problem. See you. Yeah.
No, take one.
Yeah. Are you? You're not Muslim.
No, I'm not.
Yet.
I'm trying to get him to convert.
So what are you? Do you believe in a specific
I'm not
religion?
religious, but I like to read religious texts because it's interesting and maybe I'll find something I find.
What about the idea of God's existence? Do you believe in a creator, higher power?
I feel like it's a bit reductive to reject it entirely.
You reject it?
No, I don't.
It's reductive to reject it, you're saying. Okay. So what is your position on it?
I like to think that if there's any divine being there, kind enough to let me know that.
Is it okay if you come a little bit closer because I can't hear you what you're saying? Sorry.
I like to think that if there is a God, they'll be cool enough to let me know that they exist.
Okay. How would they let you know they exist?
Well, this is the problem. The argument is that they let us know that we exist by the sheer miracle of existence. But existence isn't always fun, so I don't know if that there is a God who's kind all the time.
So let me ask you this question: if this life was a test, and that test is whether you will believe in God and follow His commands, and whether you would reject Him, would it make sense for God to give you a sign that He exists while He's testing you whether you would believe in Him or not?
My main issue is that I am not entirely convinced in the merits of the notion of free will. The idea that I'm being tested, therefore, is kind of uncomfortable to me if I don't believe that I can make decisions in any other way that I've made decisions before.
I don't believe you.
Sorry?
I don't believe you.
You don't believe me?
Yeah. I know you live your life knowing that you have a free will to choose what you do. Are you choosing? You believe you chose to come here. You believe you're speaking to me now by choice and you can walk away anytime you want.
I can walk away, but I only came here because I know this exists.
No. But you came here assumes that you made a choice.
Not necessarily.
You said I came here. I was not forced to come here.
That's a semantic argument. We're arguably the very
No. I'm talking about what you believe.
No, I know. But I haven't been convinced yet.
No, it's not about being convinced, but you agree with me. You operate on your life based on you choosing things that you know you're choosing things that no one is forcing you.
Because I've never...
So if I kill you right now, or you don't believe that I should be blamed for that?
That's not my argument. My argument is essentially, you're trying to say that morality doesn't exist.
No. I'm trying to say that if I do that, I should not be held accountable because it was something forced I didn't have a choice in.
Well, that's what you're saying. That essentially morality can exist if free will doesn't. When if you kind of take an irreligious position, morality only exists as the things that justify logically actions that must happen as a result of free will.
Okay.
So, I'm curious. I've never.
No, but how do you? But I didn't feel like you gave me an answer. What you just said. You know.
I've had various priests.
We're having a nice discussion. I'm not trying to trap you or anything like that.
My religious background is mainly Catholic.
Okay.
And I've had various discussions with priests and religious officials that I know, who've always tried to convince me that free will is an absolute given. But I've never really been comfortable in my mind that the decisions I've made in life could ever have gone any other way than the way that they have.
Okay.
So I struggle with that.
No. Actually, the Quran has a very interesting verse about that. Is that the people, the Quran says what you're saying, and it says that people who don't believe use that as an excuse not to believe.
Interesting.
Right? So it says that قال الذين كفروا لو شاء الله, those who disbelieve, they said, if Allah willed, you would not have disbelieved. Right? So Allah says this is how they disbelieve and this is how their ancestors disbelieve, using that excuse.
So it's an excuse then?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying to you. I don't believe you, and I know that deep down you know that you're living it. When you do your day-to-day things, you do them based on you making your choices. But when it comes to belief in God, all of a sudden this idea of free will comes into the picture, which to me is a bit inconsistent. It is like the same people who come to me and say, I do not know if this existence is real and this and that. This is the same hypocrisy. I say, okay, why don't you go in front of the bus and jump on top of the building? Why don't you live your life based on the claims that you make that this life might not be real? No, you live your life that this life is real. But when I talk to you about God's existence, maybe not everything exists, maybe when it comes to God, all of a sudden there is a complete different kind of argumentation when it comes to God, completely different criteria. Why? Because there is deep within the person does not want to believe in a creator.
Well, obviously it's terrifying. Because there's always the fear that if one is wrong, one is definitely sins. I don't believe necessarily that there's such a clear distinction between free will and a kind of divine theodicy understanding of the world and daily life. Because I still struggle to believe that my actions on a daily basis are entirely free.
Okay.
But as soon as I come to believe that, I think I will be forced to find a faith that would...
Yeah, but I think you're wasting your time by even thinking about whether... Okay, let me tell you this, and I want you to think about this for a second. You can never find out whether you have free will or not. If you believe in a creator, if you accept the idea of existence of a creator, if you don't accept the idea of existence of a creator, you have to believe you don't have free will. Now, if you believe in a creator, you cannot reconcile between the two, logically. If you don't believe in a creator, when I say creator, I mean you believe in an all-powerful, all-knowledgeable entity, right?
Yes.
So you cannot reconcile between an all-powerful, all-knowledgeable entity that wills everything in existence, that knows everything in existence, that created you, and in the same time the fact that you have. No, I wouldn't use the term free will. I don't like to use that term anyways, because we don't believe we have free will.
Well, this is essentially a Calvinist argument that God preordains a kind of elects just people that will be saved eventually.
We don't believe that.
No, that's a sort of
Calvinism, yeah.
Yeah, Calvinism.
Yeah, we don't believe that. We say, because you've got free will, and you've got hard determinism, you've got people who are completely libertarian when it comes to free will, and you've got a school in the middle called compatibilism, which try to reconcile between the two, right? And there's various arguments that people make for that. But in an Islamic perspective, we say this is not something that the human mind can explain rationally. We say that I cannot explain to you rationally using examples that the creator is all-powerful, all-knowing, wills everything in the universe, and he's given me the choice to choose that which deals with my afterlife in the same time. But I'm saying this is not an excuse to say this religion is true or not. I should look if this religion has evidence that is true. If this religion has evidence that is true, then by default, it claiming that I have free will is also true. This is how I would advise you look at it.
I'm open to considering it that way.
Okay.
You've been very helpful. I've never had much exposure.
No problem. Okay, so let me ask you this question. How would you determine whether a specific religion is true or not? Because now this is the crux of the matter, isn't it? How then would I say this religion is from God, or this religion is true, or it's not true?
Well, arguably its tenets would have to be fulfilled, that whenever it says God will do, God will do.
Okay.
And that's never really been reached by any faith. Some of the most hilarious things I've read about in Christian theology are where they kind of... My favorite thing I read about was a belief called millenarianism, where in the very early Christian church, they had the belief that essentially, because in the book of Revelation, it says that in 1,000 years God will come back and judge everyone. It says specifically 1,000 years.
I know.
And then when that didn't happen, no one knew what was going on.
That's not the only false prophecy in the Bible.
But what I'm saying is, for example, where
Yes.
the only way we'll ever find an objective proof is if a very specific tenet of a faith
I like what you said.
is objectively
I agree with what you said.
and I don't think that's really happened to me for any faith.
That's the point. What you're saying, I love what you're saying, because I'll tell you what, it's a sign of sincerity, what you're saying. Because most unsincere people, what they would do, when I ask them for a criteria, they would claim there is no criteria. Okay, what will prove to you that God exists? Nothing really can prove that God exists. Okay, why are you asking me to show you that God exists there? Which shows the inconsistency and hypocrisy of some atheists, right? But the point is, you're showing sincerity because you're actually given a criteria. Now, the point is, if I were to show you now that Prophet Muhammad 1,400 years ago made tens of predictions,
And that they were all right.
and they will all right,
I would believe.
they will all happen, but this is the case, right? Let me give you some examples of what the Prophet, and the challenge is to find something that he said will happen in a specific way and it didn't, like you were saying, that he says this will happen and it doesn't happen. Prophet Muhammad made tens of predictions. I'll give you just a few examples of what he said. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, you will see the barefoot Bedouin Arabs competing in building the tallest buildings. Alright? So who are the barefoot Bedouin Arabs? Bedouins are people who live in the desert.
I'm familiar
Yeah,
with
because
that.
most people don't know for some reason, right? So, where's the tallest building in the world today?
Sorry? They're all in Arabia.
Yeah.
And then one of the largest clock in the world is in Mecca. Mecca is
Absolutely.
itself a shrine to very tall
Absolutely.
buildings.
Absolutely.
But you can argue then that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly, and this is how I'm going to answer you right now. First is that the Prophet ﷺ and the Quran as well commands you not to spend money in things which are not useful, not to use money. So it's not something that the Prophet told the people to do. It's to be, if you're wasting your money on things which are not important and people are dying of hunger, the Prophet would tell you not to do that. He would tell you the opposite. So you're not really following what the Prophet says. That's the first thing. The second thing I would say is, how did they get the financial capacity to be able to build the buildings anyway? What happened?
Sorry?
You know what happened?
Well, oil?
Find oil, exactly, right.
You could argue it was a kind of divine intervention.
No, but the Prophet, he said 1,400 years ago, the earth will puke its treasures and money will become abundant within you. So he didn't only say that you will be building these tall buildings, but he also said that the earth,
Money would come for those buildings.
yeah, the earth will be puking its treasures, giving out its treasures, and money will become abundant within you, the Arabs. So you specifically telling them that this will happen. So it's not only that he told them what they will do, but he also mentioned the reason.
That's fascinating.
Okay, now the Prophet ﷺ said, now there are so many countries that are Muslim today. Now, many of them, or you can say even most of them, the Prophet ﷺ named that Islam will enter them by name. So the Prophet said Islam will enter Egypt, right? Islam will enter Syria, Islam will enter Lebanon, Islam will enter Yemen, right? Islam will enter Pakistan, India, Islam will enter Constantinople, which is Turkey, right? And he named each of these countries, and he said you will overcome the Roman and Persian Empire. And when he was saying that, and I want you to keep that in mind, when he was saying that, he had really like, what, 300 followers around him.
And the rise of the Ottoman Empire is entirely miraculous.
Absolutely. When the Prophet ﷺ was there, I'm telling you, he had 300 followers. He was being persecuted in Mecca. He didn't know if he's going to live tomorrow or not. His companions didn't know if they're going to live tomorrow or not. And all of a sudden, this man is telling them, you will overcome the biggest empires of the time, the Roman and Persian Empire. An atheist historian, he said, this is paramount to saying the Eskimos are going to conquer USA and Russia. Imagine, go to the Eskimos now and say, all these bunch of Eskimos are going to conquer. Right, so it was the same thing. And now look at the map. Islam spread exactly what the Prophet ﷺ said. He said, Zuya Kliya al-Ard. Earth was projected onto me. And I've seen its eastern sides and western sides, and Islam was spread in the east and the west. East and the west of Saudi Arabia. And today, look, east and west of Saudi Arabia. Islam spread, right? So this is what the Prophet ﷺ said. The Prophet said, the deserts of Arabia will become green again. Now I want to show you something interesting. What did he say? He said the deserts of Arabia will become green once again. Now let's see what Nature, you know Nature obviously, right?
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah. Which is the biggest obviously science magazine in the world. So I don't know who's not familiar with it. Okay, so let's see what Nature magazine says about that. So I want you to think about what I said. The Prophet said the deserts of Arabia will become green again. What does again there mean? If I say something,
they were before.
Exactly. If I say something will happen again, it means that something happened already once. So he's making two claims.
It's a scientific prediction that the seas as they existed in the past of the Arabian Peninsula were green and full of life.
Exactly. So he's making two claims. He's making the first claim is that in the past this was meadows and rivers and green, and he's making a claim about the future that it will be also meadows and rivers and green. Now, according to Nature Middle East, unrevealing Arabia's grain past, right? And they show you traces of 5,000 ancient lakes. They show you fossils of animals like, let's say, whales and animals that only live where there's a lot of water, right? So this is when it comes to the past. So we know thousands of years ago, which you wouldn't know, but we know today. How they know? They use satellites. They see the traces of ancient lakes through the satellites and all of that, right? Now, he said they will become green again in the future as well. So, this is the deserts of Arabia. Look, 1987, 1991, 2000, and 2012. NASA, yeah? So you see the huge difference that is happening. So the Prophet is not only making a claim about the future, he's making a claim about the past, right?
That is, I have to go very soon.
Okay.
That was fascinating. I've never really...
So the point is, give me your phone. Let me give you a video that mentions all of these predictions on YouTube.
I'm fine, thanks.
No problem. No problem. Have a great. No problem. See you.
قال يا عشيرتي جميعكم حتى ابنتي لا أغني عنكم فاعبدوا إلهكم ووحدوا.
إذا أعجبك الفيديو لا تنسى الإعجاب والتعليق، ولكي يصلك كل جديد اشترك الآن.